Well, I'm telling you, you keep protesting and you keep being silly. You got to remove your consent. You got to walk away from it. Now they say there is no political solution. I agree. However, that said, as much as I hate that word citizen, we may have to co-opt the Australian Citizens Party. Sometimes you may have to align on the greater good and figure out the small things later. Once the numbers are right. No, the friends all starting to come out now. Oh, bloody head cold. Getting better.
In January, your government rammed through a bill in one day that can ban entire organisations even if no crime has been committed. And now Parliament is considering a bill that would permanently establish Australia as an authoritarian police state. It would entrench secret police powers that include detaining and interrogating without any judicial oversight. Provisions that allow the government to jail journalists who expose government crimes. Powers that can be used on children as young as 14. And if this bill passes, these powers will never expire. I'm Robert Barwick from the Australian Citizens Party. If you believe Australia should never become an authoritarian police state, I urge you now to sign our petition against this madness. Please stay with me because what I'm about to explain affects every Australian family. The bill in question was introduced in Parliament in August 2025. It's called the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation Amendment Bill No. 2, 2025. It is the latest bill to expand ASIO's powers to operate as a secret police. That's right, a secret police. Something which is supposed to be a feature of so-called authoritarian regimes, not democratic countries. After the shock of the 9/11 terrorist attacks in 2001, Australians were told extraordinary powers were temporarily needed to stop imminent threats. Those powers allowed ASIO to detain and interrogate people without normal judicial oversight, forcing them to answer questions with no right to silence. Even back then, many Australians warned that this crossed a dangerous line. It violated a basic democratic principle, the separation of powers. Policing is supposed to be carried out by civilian police under judicial oversight. Independent judges are required to approve warrants. Instead of requiring ASIO to get a warrant from a judge, ASIO only needed the approval of the Attorney General, i.e. the government, a blatant breach of the separation of powers. These powers were only approved by Parliament in 2003 because they added a sunset clause to make them temporary. However, once they were introduced, they never went away. Instead, they expanded. Over the years since 9/11, the age for interrogation was lowered. The scope of issues widened beyond terrorism, and journalists were threatened with prison for reporting on ASIO operations, even if they exposed wrongdoing. Now, the government wants to go even further. This latest bill would allow ASIO to use these coercive powers across all of its activities. And most alarmingly, it would repeal the sunset clause entirely, locking these powers in forever. That's what makes this moment different. When temporary, these emergency powers were bad enough. If made permanent, Australians will be accepting we are now a police state. And here's the question every Australian should ask. With all these extraordinary powers, why wasn't ASIO able to stop the Bondi attack by a perpetrator already known to the agency? Where is the accountability? Why does ASIO boss Mike Burgess still have a job? In a healthy democracy, agencies that fail so catastrophically are investigated and leadership is held to account.
It looks like an
Instead,
bastard.
the government's response is to grant even more power, including the power to recommend banning organisations. Australia's leading constitutional expert, Emerita Professor Anne Toomey, warned this banning power, as written, has so few protections it would allow a future government to even ban political parties, such as the Citizens Party. This is how freedom is lost, not overnight, but step by step, until people wake up and realise the country they thought they lived in is gone. Do you want Australia to have a secret police? Do you want children as young as 14 to be interrogated? Is it a good idea to jail journalists for up to 10 years for reporting on an ASIO operation, even if they were exposing illegal activities and corruption? Is this the kind of country you want to leave your children and grandchildren? Yes, intelligence is important, but policing must always be done with checks and balances by civilian police under judicial oversight. That's why we're calling on Parliament to repeal these police state powers, not expand them. Please, sign the petition and add your voice to this demand. Share it with your friends and family. Once these powers are made permanent, important protections against government overreach will be gone forever. Please sign the petition now and help free Australia from permanent police state powers.
Authorised by Craig Isherwood, Citizens Party, Melbourne.
We begin today's show in Minneapolis.
So who's going to be the Nazi sympathisers? And who's going to be the first rounded up for re-education? Right. Why was you all protesting, hopping up and down about Israel and Palestine? Hello? Ram through. I told yous, you're being distracted. You don't know what you're bloody doing. You're dopey. Wake up yourselves. Stop taking red pills. It's just another sleeping tablet. It's a hallucinogen.
There was that ant that stood up to me.
Yeah, but we can forget about him.
Yeah, it was just one ant.
Yeah, you're right. It's just one ant.
Yeah, boss, they're puny.
Puny. Say, let's pretend this grain is a puny little ant. Did that hurt?
Nope.
Well, how about this one?
Are you kidding?
How about this? You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? And what?
Unless you're prepared to organise properly, have a strategy, an actual plan, an organised plan, something that doesn't let off, something that comes in a wave and a wave and a wave and a wave and it doesn't let up, then the other option is to stay the hell at home. Stop going to work. Turn the machine off. I'm not fucking around with you. Ha! What do any of you know about war strategy, about war gaming, about political tactics, about Hegelians and dialectics? What do you know about any of it? What do you know about cause and effect, fifth generational warfare, where certain events create a psychological imbalance, which creates an emotional reaction, which then creates a psychological malfunction? That's the fifth generation, psychological versus the spiritual, the emotional. The inner torment, which causes us all to, we don't know what's real. We're arguing with this person, but what if he's right? But what if he's wrong? But what if I'm right? What if I'm wrong? We'll just go and fucking march around the lounge room and wave our fist around, and we'll go into a city and have a protest against the cops who are just following orders. Do you think the cops aren't being gaslit too? They're being given all this power, and anyone that wants power, especially the yes people who took the jabs, they're just yes people. Why? How do you know? Because they took the jabs. They know they're yes people because they took the jabs. Well, they're the yes people, they took the jabs. The ones that aren't the yes people, they left. We only have yes people left. Now they're on a heavy recruitment. They're recruiting hard. And think about 2,500 cops planted around the country that came in through Queensland over the last 5 years, at 500 cops a year, under Anastasia Palaszczuk's legislature, that don't even have to have Australian citizenship, running around in uniforms. All the foreign coppers. A lot of them, they don't even have Australian citizenship. So they're just running carte blanche, doing whatever they like, and they can be replaced by another foreign cop at any given time if they fly home and send somebody else back. People that don't even like us. I'll let you listen to him again.
In January, your government rammed through a bill in one day that can ban entire organisations even if no crime has been committed. And now Parliament is considering a bill that would permanently establish Australia as an authoritarian police state. It would entrench secret police powers that include detaining and interrogating without any judicial oversight. Provisions that allow the government to jail journalists who expose government crimes. Powers that can be used on children as young as 14. And if this bill passes, these powers will never expire. I'm Robert Barwick from the Australian Citizens Party.
Now, let's go back for a second. I want to explain something to you about this building. We have a pyramid on a pole. There's a flag, right? That does not touch the ground. On the Parliament, that is built under a false constitution in a territory, and the territory is a foreign state. That's not our government. That is not our government. The only authority they have is that which you give them at the ballot box and allow them to have because you bow down to their shit. You keep paying them with your taxes. You authorise them by paying them. You validate them by paying them, by voting for them. You stop voting for them, you stop paying them, and stop abiding by their law and come back under our proper common law, which is God's law, and just do it with absolute purpose. Do it with absolute purpose. 100% dedication and conviction. Yeah, some of us will cop a hard time. I'm prepared to. But you do it at home, you do it smart to make the most of your time that you've got. Fuck the money. You can't eat it. But they need it. They need it to build the machine. To keep building the machine that they're building around us, on us. Data. The data machine. The Marinus link. The data farms, the data centres. The power turbines. all the shit that they're building so that they can go underground. How do you stop a kid playing up? Like, you know, you give them money and they go do the wrong thing with it. You stop giving them money, don't you? You just stop giving them money and you keep them at home for a while. Keep them away from the bad kids, whatever. And the bad kids go off and they do their thing. Now they're not part of that bad group anymore. What's the worst thing you can give an addict? Money. Trust me, I know. The worst thing you can give an addict is money. They're addicts. They're addicted to power, control, data. Data's the new crack cocaine. And they want it all. Why do you think there's so much ice and shit getting around? Ha! You think they don't make that happen? You're a fool. Why do you think they allowed the medicinal cannabis to get around, which is screwing everyone up, and they're going into psychosis, schizophrenia? They're just useless couch potatoes. Ugh. Can't even scratch their own arse and mow their own lawns. Lazy, filthy, useless slobs. We are run by a bunch of communists. You can keep calling it a democracy as much as you like. Democracy has failed. It's the greatest scam to ever be held on financial life support and still fail ever. It's a failure. It doesn't work. Obviously. Jesus Christ was the greatest socialist to ever be murdered. Which isn't communism. As much as you can't see the difference between the two in there, because you don't understand the power structure of communism versus socialism. Communism is kind of like democracy. It's trickle-down economics. We've got it all, and whatever falls off the table, you can have those bits. They should call it scraps that fell off the table economics. But everyone's effort is to work to hold that table up. And to put the food on that table for them. It's disgusting. We're supporting them. They're fucking parasites. We're not gonna beat them by protesting because none of you's got the nous. You just don't. And even if you did, with what? Sticks and stones? This is the imperialistic takeover of Australia 2.0. But they've done it softly and slowly. You know what? The Abos were right. Our Aboriginal brothers and sisters were spot on. There's a book called Red Over Black. Ricardo Bosi goes on about it. That's spot on. My grandfather owned that book. I literally held it in my hands. It's about how, with Operation Paperclip that came to town, it was everywhere, not just America. It was to set up government structures from within. Communism never lost World War II. Just the German army was defeated. That's all. The right people were put away and the right people were taken out the back door. Through Argentina and places. Into Australia. Through the unions. Back when John Wilson was the head of the Builders and Labourers Union, which became the CFMEU. Hello? They're throwing those institutions under the bus now. They're no longer needed because they're sitting in the top seats. If you think this happened like, Malcolm Roberts has found them, no. They're throwing them under the bus. They don't need them anymore. So all you police officers and all you people, you know, you dickhead police ministers like Felix fucking Ellis, the retard, who thinks that they're going to be part of the club, you think they're not going to throw you under the bus, mate? Of course they're going to. They're throwing Sector under the bus. They're throwing Tony, they're throwing bloody Albanese under the bus. Penny Wong, probably not. She's throwing half of her party under the bus, believe me. She's a pretty weird bloke, that one. She isn't who you think he is. This video I'm making now, this goes through, you'll be saying goodbye to me, I'll be locked up just for this. Now, you might not agree with me, but do you think I've got the right to say it? I have a barber. Doesn't do a bad job either. He's not a bad bloke. Politically, we don't perfectly align. Absolutely not. Doesn't matter. I know where I stand with the man. He's a decent bloke. And he never changes his stance on things as far as right and wrong. And his right and wrong are fucking spot on. We can have a conversation without each other's feelings getting hurt, and we know when to, okay, either come at it from another angle, or because we don't want to disrespect each other in that way. We're blunt, we're to the point, it's like, okay, and it would not be constructive to get going on that tangent of communication. That's someone you can have a difficult conversation with. Because he doesn't get offended by it. And he will actually, he's not stupid. He'll make you go, maybe I might need to rethink that myself. This is a fucking problem. But don't let it fool you either, because guarantee while we're hopping up and down about this, there'll be something else. They'll be cooking something else. That's how it's working at the moment. It's everything, everywhere, all at once, which is part of fifth generational warfare. There's the physical, the psychological, the emotional. The physical are 3 generations. It's 3-dimensional. And you've got the psychological and emotional. And those two work together with the other 3 dimensions. And it's all cause and effect. As soon as this cracked off in Bondi, I'm like, you watch. We're going to have protests and rallies which will turn into riots, and then we're going to go into a fucking lockdown. What do you think this is about? It's another one of them fucking told you so moments, isn't it? It's another one. Yeah, there we go again. Fucking sick of telling you. We'll finish back up with the ants movie, will we? Because that's very poignant. And this damn thing.
Was that ant that stood up to me?
Yeah, but we can forget about him.
Yeah, it was just one ant. One ant.
Yeah, you're right. It's just one ant.
Yeah, boss, they're puny.
Puny? Say, let's pretend this grain is a puny little ant. Did that hurt?
Nope.
Well, how about this one?
Are you kidding?
Well, how about this? You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food.
It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay?
See, they need us divided. They need us to keep protesting in little groups. And then the special police secret powers, the Stasi police will come out to play. Secret powers. Secret powers. I mean, really. The only way you're going to defeat it is to starve it to death. That explains it. They need the grain. It's not about food. It's about control and power. As long as they got the control and the power, the food just comes by itself. The money, the support, the validation, their way of life. The only way you're going to fight it is to cut the lifeline. Cut the lifeline and send the flow back in our direction. We don't need the money. The money just buys things. We can have all the things without the money. Think about it. We can have all the things without the money, but they can't. Why? They're fucking idiots. They don't know how to do anything.